In a galaxy of basketball games, Sega sadly serves up a brick. This is Sega Masters. As we plunge into the tail end of 1987, we have another great sports title on tap, one of 3 remaining in the series, and obviously this entry covers the athletic contest that is basketball. In fact, both the NES and Master System got their first Hoops titles in the fall of 1987, representing the first post-crash wave of video basketball games. Sega crafted this cart for the Master System, the first of only 2 b-ball games for their console, while the NES received the Konami classic Double Dribble. It shouldn't be surprising that Konami's offering is the more fondly remembered of the 2 carts due to its well done presentation and smooth gameplay, not to mention the cool dunking intermissions. This is what Sega's basketball cart went up against in the 8-bit Hoops arena and doesn't quite prove to be a worthy challenger. As usual, Sega's offering decides to focus on an Olympic-style international competition instead of an NBA-style league like the NES cart. Once again, 8 countries are represented here, 2 of which don't even exist anymore, and the manual claims each squad has different strengths and attributes. 2 players can each pick a team to do battle in a quick one-and-done game, or you can take on this game's attempt at an actual extensive solo mode, where you guide one country's squad against the other 7 teams in a round-robin style tournament. Once both teams are chosen and their respective anthems are played, it's time for tip-off. Incidentally, no matter which nationalities are picked, it's always Red Team versus Aqua Team. No national killers this time around. Now I'm sure all of you are mostly familiar with how basketball works, but right from the opening jump you'll notice a few oddities. Instead of 4 quarters, you play 2 halves each lasting only 3 short minutes. And each side only has 4 players that compete on a green-colored hardcourt. The core fundamentals of the sport are present, including scoring and fouls, but don't look for any fancy b-ball moves or play calling in this arena. This is basketball at its most basic, with standard passing and shooting making up most of the action, with a bit of defense mixed in. To that end, the controls have a rather simple layout that's easy to understand. The visuals are pretty straightforward as well, since all you see is the miscolored court and the rather tiny sprites that make up the competitors. While there's little slowdown or flicker, the identical athletes all sport some rather funky animation when in motion. But as vanilla as the cart may seem, it is also plagued with some very sloppy programming. First off, the ball itself is massively oversized, like you're trying to play with a beach ball. That could possibly explain why the ball's movement is so floaty in the air. It's possible to throw the ball and race down the court fast enough to catch your own pass. All scoring attempts are done via jump shots, which require 2 presses of button 1, the first to leap up and the second to actually launch the ball. If the ball is still in your hands when you land, you're called for traveling. Also, when you shoot the ball, 9 times out of 10 it manages to sink through the basket thanks to some strange physics. Even shot attempts from the most awkward of angles that shouldn't have a chance will usually go through. If the shot does miss, the ball caroms away at weird trajectories, making it difficult to snag the rebound. The AI of your teammates is spotty at best, since they never seem to know where they're going and are often out of position to receive your passes, leaving you to watch helplessly as the ball bounces out of bounds or into the hands of your opponents. The background music plays non-stop during the action, but doesn't get in the way. In fact, it even grows on you after a while. Too bad it's drowned out by some terrible sound effects, including the dribbling sound and an annoying spring when anybody jumps up. Not to mention the crowd noise is once again represented by a jet engine. A number of fuzzy and barely coherent voice samples are present as well. Once the half concludes, you're treated to this rather cute halftime show before the second half tip-off. Then you do battle for 3 more minutes, hoping to have the higher score once the clock expires. In the event of a tie, 90-second overtimes will be played until a winner is decided. The worst part of great basketball is playing defense, as you can hardly block any shots, and any attempt at a steal will usually result in a foul being called. In fact, the referees will call either a charging or pushing foul for even the slightest contact with the opposing player. The frequency of these calls constantly disrupts the game flow, causing it to move at a sluggish pace. Then again, you can often use this to your advantage. When the CPU passes or inbounds the ball, just position your sprite on top of the opponent's receiver, usually the guy twitching in place, and odds are you'll draw a charging foul and get possession. Accumulating 8 or more fouls in a half, or fouling somebody in the act of shooting, will allow the opposing team to attempt 2 free throws. This part uses a combination aiming arrow and sliding meter to determine whether your charity shot goes in, not unlike some of the free throw meters in modern basketball titles. And you're often forced to foul the other guy, since the game lacks a 24-second shot clock or any backcourt violations to prevent someone from stalling like crazy. As a result, it's not unusual to see both teams' scores in the 20s once the final buzzer sounds. It's almost like you're playing basketball from the early 1950s. Should you triumph in your battle with the CPU, your victorious crew gets a moment to celebrate before engaging in a special winning shot contest. Basically, each man takes a shot behind the 3-point arc for bonus points, giving you permission to run the score up further. For all its faults, Great Basketball actually sports a novel RPG-like feature, as your margin of victory earns you special vitality points to upgrade your team's attributes, not unlike experience points. In between matches, you take a minute to distribute your newly earned points to boost your team's speed, jump power, shooting accuracy, and passing ability as you see fit. In essence, the more you win, the better your team supposedly gets. And this method of seeing your players improve over time could be seen as the predecessor for the career modes used by current basketball titles. You then choose your next opponent for another session on the court. Basically, the tournament has you playing against the other 7 teams over and over, earning more vitality points to improve your team further along the way. And winning 7 consecutive games nets you the gold medal. Sadly, there's no way to save your progress, which forces you to play all 7 games in one sitting. Just getting through one game can be laborious, and the lack of differently colored teams makes all the games look identical, which quickly gets monotonous. Incidentally, losing a game will cause you to start your run over, and dropping a second contest will eliminate you entirely. So overall, Great Basketball is another great sports dud. The bland gameplay contains nothing that makes you want to keep playing, even with another friend, and while the RPG touch is nice, it's far too little to compensate for this cart's many negatives. Almost every factor of this game is easily blown away by Double Dribble and other 8-bit hoops titles, so you're better off passing this challenge up.